Hello, traders. This is Dave with the Compass Options Trading Room and the Compass Options Text Alert Service. And this is going to be another video on the SPY Super System that we do use in the Compass Options Trading Room. And I'm going to go over it. I try to do some of these periodically as we find some nice SPY trades. We have a lot of SPY Q and IWM size SPY Super System trades during the week. And I just kind of highlight some of them, so you can see how they work and how well they're working. So let's get forward here, go forward. Again, this is the Compass Options Live Trading Room Super System intraday trading. It's called the SPY Super System, although we do trade the SPY, the Qs, and the IWM. First thing I have to do, of course, is the disclaimer. All signals and trading opportunities we provide here are for educational and demonstration purposes only. Trading is very risky, so you should never trade with more money than you can afford to lose. And neither myself or Right Line Trading are licensed financial advisors, so we won't be giving financial advice. Okay, so again, this kind of is the graphic of what the alert service looks like. We do SMS text alerts on all of our high probability trade setup. We do not text alerts on the SPY Super System. They're much too quick to be able to do that, and to be in the room or with your own copy of the Compass system to do that yourself. All right, so we do have some rules to trade by in the room and on the alert service. First thing we do is we trade the best and skip the rest. Sounds easy, it's not. We only find the very highest probability trade setups. And the next thing is our objective is not to make trades, our objective is to make money. So we're not looking to do an awful lot of trades, we're just looking to do the best trades and keep our win rate high around 85 to 90%. And we have to have patience to do that. We also need an edge over other retail traders. Our edges is we use what's called the Compass system, the Right Line Compass system. It's a piece of software that runs on Thinkorswim or Ninja and identifies when the institutions are in trades and when they're not. Next thing we do is we trade relative strength and relative weakness. That's not RSI, but that's how is my stock trading relative to the SPY or the Qs. And obviously, if it's trading stronger, it's got relative strength. If it's trading weaker, it's got relative weakness. Now, this doesn't apply to the SPY Super System, but it does apply to all the other trades that we take. And then we trade with the market trend if there is one. And key thing here is we try to buy near support and sell near resistance. We don't chase trades. We let them go ahead and move in their direction, come back to support or resistance, and then enter when we're close to support and resistance. And I go over the slide each time. If you've seen some of these videos, you've probably seen this before. But just so you understand what markets are made up of, they're made up of millions of retail traders like ourselves with the little marbles, and institutions, which are the big marbles here. We as retail traders, we cannot move the market. So when we're trading and the institutions are not involved in any big way in the trade, what you did is you get chaos and chop. So we don't want to be in when just the retail traders are in. We want to be in when the institutions are in there. Institutions are investment banks, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, HSBC, all the big investments banks who have trading desks, and they also have algos. They have computerized systems that trade, which is about where 80% of the trading volume comes from. So they control the market, and when they're driving the market one way or another, that's what we want to do. That's when we want to be in. We don't want to be in with just these other retail traders. So when we're tracking the institutions, don't think we're going to take any money from them. We're not, but we're going to take it from other retail traders who don't have the same information or as good information as we do. All right, so and I'll just as an aside, the algos have taken over the market. Let's join them. This is important because the institutional trading is what we identify in the Compass system, and that allows us to know what the algos are doing, and so we can join them. Algos have actually written programs now. They've written code to actually identify retail traders and what some of their strategies are, and they actually write programs to bust those strategies, MACD crossovers or RSI or whatever they're using. They have ways to identify that and then bust the trades for the retail traders. We want to avoid all those things. All right, so the Compass system, just so you'll know, and you're going to see a lot of charts here, but it identifies the highest probability trade setups while ignoring ones that are going to fail more often than they succeed, the ones where the institutions aren't in there. And it does this by identifying when the institutions are driving the move and when they're not. This is really critical. The Compass software analyzes complex trading data and displays the results in easily identifiable visual format. This is what's so nice about this. It's taking a look at really complex data to determine if the institutions are in there or not. But the way it's presented on the thinkorswim chart, it's in colors, and you'll be able to see very easily. Even a rookie trader, a novice trader, can identify high probability trade setups and low probability trade sets just by looking at the colors on the chart. All right, so what the indicators we're going to use for the SPY super system that we'll be generally trading will be the SPYs, the Qs, or the IWM. In other words, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, or the Russell 2000. The indicator that we're going to be using, the key indicator, is called current time frame momentum. We'll be looking for color changes in the current time frame momentum. Another thing we'll be looking at is the VWAP, the volume weighted average price. This is a support resistance level. This is really important because this is a level that most institutions use as a key entry and exit level. So when the price is above the VWAP, you want to be that would be for longs. When it's below the VWAP, that would be for shorts. And the other support resistance level we use is called the 15 EMA. It's an exponential moving average. It's basically a smooth 15 EMA. It has a 15 EMA of an EMA, so it isn't as herky-jerky as a regular 15 is. And this is the other support resistance level we can use. Another thing I look for is you'll see this thing called a pivot point. It's a white line on the Compass 2000 chart and tells us where a pivot point is. Those become support and resistance levels, not necessarily something that we trade off of. However, it's just good to know when the price is approaching the pivot point that you're getting close to needing to take profits. Okay, so one of the things to understand here is we talked about the current time frame momentum being the main indicator that we use for the SPY super system. Well, momentum is critical in determining if institutions are in a trade. But many traders, they misunderstand what constitutes momentum. Just because you're seeing green candle after green candle doesn't mean that there's necessarily institutional momentum in the trade. So let's take a look what momentum really is. And it's pretty easy graphic to see. These are candlesticks. What we've got here is the black is the open, and the black up here is the close. So here's the open to the close, open to high. I'm sorry, open and high. This is the close. The blue line is the close. So again, open, high, close, open, high, close. Notice that on these candlesticks, the close of each candle is getting closer and closer to the high of the candle, all the way up. That's what constitutes momentum, and that's what we're looking for. So that's an acceleration in momentum to the upside, and you can see the candlesticks are getting closer and closer to the very top. And exactly this opposite one coming down as the closing price of the candle gets closer and closer to the low of the candle. You've got deceleration or acceleration to the downside. So that's what momentum is looking at. Okay, now the criteria for the SPY super system setup. We're going to take a look at the SPYs, the Qs, and the IWM. What we look for is to trade the strongest index of the three for longs and the weakest index for short. So if the SPY is up 2% and the Qs and IWM are 0.5%, then we're going to trade the SPY, all things being equal, and that would mean as long as it's not getting close to any kind of a resistance level. Now we're going to enter these trades when the current momentum indicator, and we'll look at that, changes from red to yellow, from red or yellow to blue or green. Red and yellow is bearish, blue and green is bullish. So it would be a color change from red to yellow, red or yellow to blue or green, either one of those colors. Enter when the current momentum indicator changes from blue or green to yellow or red for a short, just the opposite. All right, so you've got red and yellow for short, blue and green for long, and you watch those color changes. So if you're going long, the index should be up for the day. And we can take some counter trend trades. I'm not going to talk too much about this, but it's possible to take a SPY super system on a stock or an index that's down for the day, but it's rallying and heading up toward the VWAP, and you've got a lot of running room to the VWAP. I'll show you some of those on the chart, but we can take counter trend trades. If you're going short the index, it should be down for the day. It should be red for the day. You want to trade with the trend, and counter trend is also possible on those. Stock price should be above the VWAP for long and below the VWAP for short. All right, so those are the criteria. It's not really that complicated. You just have to watch for them. Now, the best entry setups, we've got a couple of really good entry setups. obviously trading the strongest index on an up day and the weakest index on a down day. Enter when the current momentum indicator changes from red or yellow to blue or green for long, and when it changes from blue or green to yellow or red for short. All right, we'll look at the colors. You'll be able to see there in just a minute. If you're going long, the index should be up for the day. If you're going short, the index should be down for the day. And the stock price should be above the VWAP for long and below the VWAP for short. Now, we can do some counter trend trades, but this is generally what we look for. So here's the best setups for the SPY Super System. For longs, we're going to take the strongest bullish index. The price should be moving up through the VWAP or bouncing off the VWAP after a pullback. In other words, it's going through the VWAP right now, or it's pulled back down to it and bouncing off of it. The current momentum indicator must be blue or green. Now, it could have just switched to blue or green, but it must be blue or green. And if it just switches to it this particular candle, you're catching it a little bit earlier in the trend, which is good. Now, the other thing is if the market is pulled away from the VWAP's not really close anymore, then you're going to trade the strongest bullish index. You can take a trade as the price moves up through the EMA or bounces off the EMA after a pullback, very similar to the VWAP. And the current momentum indicator must be blue or green, and it could have just turned blue or green. Opposite on the short side, the weakest bearish index you're going to trade, the price should be moving down through the VWAP or bouncing off the VWAP after a move up to it. And the current momentum indicator must be yellow or red, or you will be trading off the 15 if you can't use the VWAP, price moving down through the 15 EMA or bouncing off the 15 EMA after a move up, and the current momentum indicator must be yellow or red. Pretty simple. I mean, it's really not that complicated, and I'm going to show you these setups and how easy they are to see and show the results we've had with this SPY Super System. All right, so this is the compass system on Thinkorswim. This is exactly what my screen looks like. A lot of indicators on here. It looks really busy, but you know, this is the current time frame momentum right here. This particular line where I've got the green arrow pointing to it, that's the current time frame momentum for the SPY Super System. This is the one that's critical to us. This is the one we're going to be keying off of. All right, so that's important. The other ones, this is multi-time frame momentum. There's other indicators in here that we use for our regular trades, but for the SPY Super System, this is what we're looking for. And you notice how this went from red to blue right here. The other thing we're looking at is the VWAP. I've got it identified right here. The volume weighted average price is this pink line. This is our support resistance level. This is the 15 EMA, this little thin green line. That's the support and resistance level. So in this particular trade that we took, this was on 8-9, we took it as an indicator of the current time frame momentum switched from red to blue, bearish to bullish, institutions selling, institutions buying. Now we took it right here on this candle. If you see, it just broke up through the VWAP. See, it's below the VWAP. Now it's moving up through the VWAP. And the compass system also puts out these arrows, these pink arrows for long and blue arrows for short. These are called pop signals, or pop out of the box signals. And these identify when a compression is being broken. So we've got a really nice setup here. The red is bearish, blue is bullish. It's breaking through the 15 and the 8. I mean, the VWAP and the 15 as the candle breaks here. So this is where we take this trade. And our stop on this is if it closes back below the 15, which it did not. Closes below the VWAP, which it did not. All right, so we take this trade here and we ride it up. Now notice that it's starting to pull away from the VWAP, but it's staying along the 15. So what we do here is we would adjust our stop to a close below the 15 once we're in the profits. But it didn't do that. You see how it kept moving up and kept moving up and kept moving up. Everything's green here. See, this went from red to blue, and now it's green, and the stock price continues to move up. And this is where we exited right here, where we see the stock starting to lose a little momentum. See how we're getting wicks and tails here, a doji, and then another doji. We get out right here as the stock is getting a little extended from the 15 EMA, and it's quite a ways from the VWAP. So we took profits there. That was $220 per contract on this particular trade that we took on 8-9. All right, so and I just use this one slide to cover all the indicators. I don't put them on all of the slides, but this shows you the setup that we've got here. Again, current time frame momentum went from red to blue, buying to selling to buying. The price popped up through the VWAP. we had a pop out of the box symbol. You don't have to have that, but it's an additional confirmation for you. And as it broke through here, this is where we went long. Okay, and we rode this thing up. Right, so $220 profit per contract. This is one we just took on Friday. There wasn't very many SPY super system setups the last couple of days of this week. A lot of the stock prices was gap, and then it didn't really do too much, so there wasn't a lot of trends to follow. But in this particular case, this was a Friday afternoon. You can see the current time frame momentum here going from red to blue. So we're going from selling to buying. And we're looking at the price action right here. And this candlestick broke above the VWAP, right? It actually broke right here, but this is where I took it here. It broke above here, and it kind of moved sideways. Notice now it broke above the VWAP and above the 15, which is a little thin line. But the stock price stayed above the 15, stayed above the 15. So we stay in. Current time frame momentum still telling us the institutions are buying. So we stay in the trade, we stay in the trade, we stay in the trade as it stays above the 15 right here. It's chopping around a little bit, but no big pullback to the 15. Give it some room, and it continues up here, and then we exited right here on this candle. It's about 3:45 here, so we're getting pretty late in the day. Probably could have made a little bit more money, but we exited right here on this first red candle. $180 profit per contract on this little SPY super system trade right here. Obviously, you can see again is the current time frame momentum, red to blue, selling to buying, breaking through the VWAP, pop out of the box symbol, everything that we need for the setup. So again, it's not that complicated to find these trades. You just have to wait for them. This was a SPY super system trade here that we were short. This was back on 8/23. See how it's the stock price here. Notice that it was already yellow when this thing broke, but it broke below the VWAP. So it broke below the VWAP, and it was already yellow and red. So this is telling us that institutions are selling. So we take it right here, and this green line is the 50 simple moving average. I do not use this on the 5-minute chart. It breaks down below the VWAP, and we stay in this trade. Now, it's not doing much. You see how it's just kind of moving sideways? And we're using it right here. We're using the 15 as our stop. If it closes above the 15, I'm going to take a loss on it or a small profit. But it's moved sideways, but it never closed above the 15. Got above it briefly, but never closed below the 15. And the current time frame momentum stayed red the whole time. So the stock breaks down. This white line is a pivot point, so I watch it very carefully here, because if it bounces off here, I'm going to take profits. But as it turned out, it just continued on down. It flushed down, and we got out right here as it pulled down and then started to bounce. Still, the institutions are still selling, but we've got a nice profit in that. $280 profit per contract on this particular trade, and it's not an awful long time. These are 5-minute candlesticks. All right, this was one on 8/23 again. This was a $150 profit. See the red selling on the current time frame momentum, buying on the current time frame momentum. Right here went to blue. We're waiting for this break above the VWAP. Could have taken it here. We actually took it here as it broke above the 15, and we took this trade and we stayed in it and stayed in it and stayed in it. Again, it did not break below the 15 the whole time. It did not close below the 15, and we get out right here in this red candle after a nice run up, $150 a contract on the IWM. IWM, you don't get the profitability is a little lower because it doesn't move as fast as the SPY or the Qs does. This was the Qs. This was a nice short that we took on the Qs here. Fairly quick trade. This was on 9/9 on September 9th. You can see the price here now. You notice it's green, bullish. Then it goes to yellow right here. All right. So this was actually where I could have entered this, but I didn't catch it. And I think probably I didn't catch it because it was close to this pivot point, this white line. But once it broke below the pivot point right here, this is where I decided to take it. And I'm basically at this point, I'm using the 15 EMA as my stop. And it came down with a pop out of the box symbol again and again. And I stayed in it as it stayed below the 15, stayed in it, and exited right here as it was kind of chopping around. Everything is still red, but I've got profit in it, and I'm happy to take profits right there. Okay, that was on the Qs. This was also on the Qs. I think this was one we just did a bit ago. This was on 9/4. This was a $190 profit per contract. Look across the bottom here. Current time frame momentum. It's right here. It's blue. It's bullish. Green. It's bullish. switches to yellow right there. It switches to yellow right there, and the stock price pulls below the VWAP right there. And see, it's still green there, so I wait until it goes yellow. So I enter the trade right here on this candle. It's below the 15, it's below the VWAP. The 15 becomes my stop on this because I'm closer to the 15 than I am the VWAP. So it pulls down here. I get popped out of the box symbols, and the stock pulls down pretty quickly on the SPY, and then it starts to move sideways. I decide to go ahead and take profit right here as it's flattening out, and I've got decent profit in 190 contracts. So I get out. These are pretty nice big candles. So again, you see it's still selling going on. So the entry was right here on the switch from green to yellow. I'm sorry, from green to yellow, bullish to bearish, break below the 15 and the VWAP right here. That's where you get in. This was 920. This was a run that we took. This was a long on the SPY. Went from red, you see, selling, to buying. In the institutions, it switches to blue. Notice it bumps above, goes above the 15 and the VWAP right here. At this point, the VWAP becomes my stop. I enter here, it stays above the VWAP, stays above the VWAP, stays above the VWAP, stays above the VWAP. I get this pop out of the box symbol here, then it pops up. So I'm staying in the trade, and I exited right here very close to the end of the day, right here on this move. Again, notice it stayed blue or green the whole way. The current time frame momentum tells you that the institutions are pushing this SPY up. And that was $190 a contract in that one. All right, so those are the setups. Like you can see, they're not that complicated to find. You just have to have you need to have the SPY system to do it, the compass system to see it on the SPY. Or if you're in my room, I have these up all day. I have the compass system up on my screen all day long, looking at the SPYs, the Qs, the IWM, and I call these trades out when I see them setting up. Now, I can't tell you the entry and the exit because they're too fast, but I'll tell you it's setting up now. It's breaking through the VWAP. I'm going to get in, and you're on your own at that point to take the trade and for entry and exit. But if you're in the room, and you don't have to, obviously you don't have to be in the room all day, because these trades occur off and on during the day quite a few times. So if you're only in the room for an hour in the morning or an hour in the afternoon, you're likely to find one or two SPY super system trades that you'll be able to take. So these were the results. I started quantifying this in July. I've been trading this for a long time, but I started to basically promote it in the room in July. And the last half of July, we was 16-0. This is based on $2,000 invested in each trade. I produced $25.96 profit in July. August, we had, you can see we ramped up the number of trades, 49 wins, 5 losses, 2 scratches. 2,000 invested in each trade, produced 82.01. And these profits are completely separate from the profits that I show for my alert service in the room. This is a separate trading strategy, and I don't include these in the profits that I have for the room or this alert service. But this is what it's produced, 82.01. In September, we were 40 wins, 3 losses, 2 scratches, pretty close to August. And 2,000 invested in each trade produced 71.32. So with a SPY super system, you're only going to have one trade on at a time. So you're not really managing a lot. You're just managing the one trade, and they're going to be very short duration. And most of the losses are going to be really small because you're getting in very close to a support or resistance level. If it breaks below there and closes below the support or resistance level, you get out of the trade. So most of the time, the losses on like the SPY trade is going to be somewhere from 10 to 30 cents. And most of the profits on these things run, and you can get small ones at 10, 20, 30 cents, but they'll run up to 70 cents a dollar, and you've seen some we get $2 on. But again, it's really important that you don't have to be in the room all day. And if you want to do these your own, what you do is just buy the Compass system. It's called the SPY Super System. You get the Compass software that gets installed on your Thinkorswim platform, and then you've got all the information you need to actually trade the SPY Super System right off that Compass system. And again, because we're trading the Qs, the SPY, and the IWM, we don't have any liquidity issue. It doesn't make any difference how many people are trading this and how many contracts they take. It's basically unlimited liquidity out there on those. So that's the SPY Super System. Again, if you look at here's the Compass system again. I go back to the first slide, and there it is. So this is what you're looking at. This software, by the way, if you buy the Compass system or the SPY Super System, they call it, it's going to be installed by Brightline on your Thinkorswim platform. You don't have to trade on Thinkorswim. I don't trade on Thinkorswim. I trade on Tradia through TradeHawk. But you can trade using the Compass system to identify the high probability trade setups and the SPY Super System setups, and then trade in any platform you want. A lot of people trade on Tastyworks, they trade on Fidelity, they trade on Scott. You can trade in anything that you want, but the Compass software needs to go on Thinkorswim to make it look like this. This is what it's going to look like. If you purchase it, the Brightline will take over your machine and load it on your Thinkorswim platform. Which you don't have Thinkorswim, you can just download it. You don't even have to pay for it, and then you'll have the Compass system on your Thinkorswim platform on your computer, and it's going to look exactly the same as what I'm showing you right here. It mimics mine. They copy over all of the indicators and all the settings that I have in my Compass system that you would then get on the Compass system that you take. So I just wanted to cover that. Again, you can see the results we've had with this thing have been pretty astronomical. We're in October now. We haven't had a lot of trading days in October. Didn't have a lot of SPY Super Systems this first week of the month. The market was doing gapping and kind of moving sideways. Didn't find an awful lot. They did have, I think, about 4 this week, which is kind of low. But again, all winners, no losers at all this month. So that's the SPY Super System. I hope you found this interesting. I hope you can understand what a nice way this is to, even if you're a trader right now trading stocks and options, longer term swings or overnight swings or longer term intraday trades. This is a great system to use to enhance that. So when you're waiting for stocks to set up to trade, and you can get a SPY Super System trade, you can use that to generate some nice profits in the meantime while you're waiting. That's what I do. And so these profits have been pretty good. A little over 15,000 in August and September, with 2,000 invested in each trade. So and again, you only have one trade on at a time. So if you put 2,000 into a trade, your max risk is 2,000. There's no accumulation of multiple trades going on. You just have one at a time. All right. So listen, thanks so much for listening. I appreciate that. I try to put these out periodically, showing some of the better SPY Super System setups, and I hope you find it useful, and I look forward to seeing some folks in my room pretty soon. So have a great weekend, and we'll see everybody in the room or on the alert service.